free digital forensics final project. I did my final project on a Python script called Foremost Case Manager. Foremost Case Manager is a GUI interface for the forensic data recovery program called Foremost. It also provides a GUI interface to add case comments or investigator comments to each of the results produced by Foremost, which are then auto-generated into a HTML output which can be reviewed later on. We'll get into that. Foremost uses a process known as file carving, which scans through byte data looking for particular header and footer signatures and then extracted byte by byte. So it does not rely on any file system or file name or extension. It strictly looks at the byte data. Let's look at the Python script that I created. Just call it through normal Python Foremost Case Manager.py. It does not take any extensions because everything is provided through the GUI. It provides simple button layout. First, it asks for a raw file, so we'll provide a raw image file. Provides an output folder for the Foremost carving. Call this file1 output. And now Foremost uses a config file, which is shown here, which basically has a list of the file types and its associated hex header and footer. Now normally this can be used to the user's liking, but just for this example we're going to just use the default config file, and we're just going to add a few file type Now once the carve is complete, we're presented with the window that shows the number of images carved. In this case it's 17, and we're shown the first instance of the image carved. We're provided the metadata associated with that image, along with a text box to include case comments. Now we can scan through all the images provided. Now with Foremost, a lot of the images can be false positives, but not only false positives, but completely irrelevant to the case or the goal of the recovery. So say this was just a random picture found on a USB stick, we can mark it as a false positive. We save it, and then we come back to it. That false positive marker is saved with that particular image. So if we go on to the second image and say this was relevant to the case or the goal of the recovery, we could add a comment. Now this supports multi-line comments, so we can pretty much write any amount of comments we want. Save it. Go to the next, and do the same for this. This provides a log which we use to auto-generate into an HTML site. And that HTML site will be useful because it can be placed on a network which can be reviewed later on, and the investigator's log of the Foremost results are saved along with the images. So we'll just say test comment. One more thing, because we marked this as a false positive, this will not be generated in the HTML output. It'll skip it. And we also see in the metadata here that this is a bitmap, and we see a JPEG here. So it does support multiple file types. We could just scan through them. It'll just string them together as one stream of images. So once we're done, we could export this to a HTML site. And this is the index, the first page of the site. Case report, the file that was the raw file that was ran through Foremost. We're also presented with the audit, the Foremost audit. And what this is just the Foremost command line, the output directory, the config file used, and the files extracted. So here we see 17 files extracted, And in our GUI, we had 17 files shown. Go back. We use a default config file, so basically we copy that default config file into the output directory so it can be saved. So this config file is never lost. We have the files that were actually extracted. So we're presented with the case report, the file name, the MD5 hash, the actual image, and the case comments that were added into the GUI. So this was the second image, and this is the case comments that we added, and they're auto-generated into the HTML document, along with that image's metadata. Go back and view each one. This is that we could take the HTML site generated and the foremost output and just copy this into a network directory so that whenever a particular report on an image wanted to be viewed, just this HTML site can be viewed. The foremost carving would not have to be redone. So we can go through another example. We'll look at a smaller file, file 2. Again, we'll get all the images. File 2 output. We'll begin the carve. And the review window isn't shown until the carve is complete, so that please wait turn symbol will be shown. Now this is obviously a false positive, so we're going to mark this as a false positive. And we're going to, for this example, we're going to mark all but one as a false positive. So they're all false positives, and we'll say that this door is relevant to the particular recovery that we're looking for. So this looks like a garage door. This is a multi-line comment. We'll save it. And we'll export this to an HTML site. Again, we're presented with the site case report, the audit file. 5 files were extracted, which we saw in the GUI. Again, the default configuration file. And only one file this time because 4 out of the 5 files were marked as a false positive. So we don't care about them, so the case report just shows the one file that we cared about. Again, the MD5 hash, the image. This looks like a garage door. This is the multi-line comment and the metadata. Now to show that we can support different file types, I have a PNG, a bitmap, a JPEG, and a GIF. Close out of this. And we could concatenate those files into a single image raw.raw. So when we run our Python script, I expect that we get 4 images, 1 of each type, and the ones that are found here. Image raw output. And here we have 4 images and the ones that we see in that directory. And this shows that we can provide metadata for, or some sort of metadata or auxiliary data for each of the file types. Custom case comment. Now again, if this was an actual USB stick with some case information, logs can be saved here, and whole reports can be written on a single particular image and saved. But since these are just examples, we don't have to go. We could just fill them in with some garbage text and show that it's saved. The smiley is a false positive. We'll save that. So only 3 images will be reported in the HTML site. We'll export it. Again, the audit shows that we have 1 of each file type. have three. And that is it for the Foremost Case Manager. Again, this is a nice front-end GUI interface to Foremost and provides a nice way to store Foremost results along with user comments on each of the results provided. Thank you.